welcome to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to get all the From the Shadows podcasts that you can possibly handle in your life, go find us at the FromTheShadowsPodcast.com. You can go to all of our social media, TikTok even, and no, I will not be singing and dancing on our TikTok page, although we would like to get some ghost footage of Ghost maybe singing or dancing. That would be pretty good on our TikTok page. But other than that, you can find anything that you want to find. You can find a contact button, send me a message or a story if you have one. And if you'd like to come on the show and share it, we'd love to have that too. If you want to send a personal message, you can find me at Shane Grove Author on Instagram and send me a message, or you can just send it through our Facebook pages, the From the Shadows page or the After the Shadows forum page. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce a friend. Let's see. So this gentleman would be a friend of a former guest on the show, on not only the paranormal show, but the Midweek How, my good buddy Tim Lovelace, the actor extraordinaire, Tim Lovelace. He introduced me to this gentleman, and said he had just a couple good paranormal stories to share. So I reached out to Charles. Charles, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast.
Hi, thank you. Happy to be here.
Hey, hey, for all those watching on YouTube, Charles looks like he'd rather be anywhere than here right now.
Oh no,
That's
I was just texting my girlfriend and letting her know. I'm like, hey, I'm doing the show now.
Oh man, hey, this is the way it works, folks. You're looking behind the curtain. We're on the fly. Hey, what ironically, Charles and Tim, who I mentioned, are Michiganders, and I am sporting for the first time on the podcast my new Ohio State Buckeye hat. So before anybody says I'm promoting marijuana or whatever, it's a Buckeye leaf. So don't get too crazy, okay? Because I know somebody will say something. Somebody will say something. But so as a special gift to my Michigan guest, I had to sport a Buckeye hat. So don't hold it against me. So so Charles, your story that you shared with me is pretty great. Okay, I just gotta say it's one of the most amazing first hand experiences that for somebody that I've talked to as far as the paranormal aspect of what happened. So I want you to tell our listeners, explain the situation, maybe tell a little bit about yourself so they can kind of understand that you're not a gentleman who just jumps to the conclusion that you're seeing crazy things, and
Sure.
tell us the event here.
Well, first of all, as you said, my name's Charles. I'm a nurse. I've been working as a nurse for a little over 10 years now, and um, I've I've never had an experience exactly like this before. Strange things happen in everybody's life, but this was the most unique and disturbing. I mean, yeah, the more that I think about it, actually, the more disturbed I am by it. So essentially, I mean, it just kind of happened out of nowhere. I was sleeping, and I just out of for no particular reason, it's the middle of the night, and I wake up, and I remember actually it was because I did look at my watch afterwards, and it was about 2:30 in the morning. I woke up out of a dead sleep, and I glance over to my right, and there's a woman standing there. Now it's pitch black, absolutely pitch black in the room, and this woman was white. I mean, like pure white. I could pick out details, like I could see this person, I could see this woman, but just was white in a room that was fully black. And I threw my arm across my girlfriend for two reasons. Because, I'm half asleep. So I wake up and I'm like, is she standing there? Like, is she in the bed? So I literally like reach across to make sure that she's there. And then I'm like, oh shit, she's there. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know
That's okay. That's okay.
if I. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I got to make sure that she's okay. So I literally just kept my hand there and I'm just staring at this woman. And she was just looking at us like very nonchalant, standing there sipping, so like, not, I mean, I don't know what she was doing, but she was holding a cup to her mouth with a straw, like you got it from like a McDonald's or something. It was just a holding it and with the straw to her lips, and she's just kind of like just glancing over, like just looking. And so I just sit there and I'm frozen. I mean, I'm sitting up in the bed, just staring straight at her, and she just keeps looking from her or from my girlfriend to me, and then she kind of gets it in her head to leave, and she just casually walks away, and then just fades. I mean, it was, you see movies where like they have this dissolve, and
Yeah.
it's not like that. It was not like that. It was just like, it was almost like I was no longer able to perceive her. It was so weird. It wasn't like she just faded away. It was more like my ability to see her disappear. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain
So yeah. I mean, that's as reasonable way to explain it as any other, like
it. Yeah.
so so you obviously by that point in time, it sounds like you were wide awake, like you knew you were wide awake.
Oh yeah, yeah, very, very awake. In fact, my girlfriend actually, I mean, because I needed to check myself because like I wanted to make sure, and I asked her later. I'm like, I threw my arm over you. Did you do you know that I did that? She's like, yeah. It kind of woke me up a little bit, but I just didn't open my eyes. And I'm like, okay. So I was very, I mean, I was very aware that I was awake, but still, like the what happened was so surreal that it was hard for me to believe that it actually happened. Like it just didn't make sense. And so I just was trying to be like, even while it was happening, I'm like, this isn't real. I'm like, this is not happening. Like I'm not seeing what I'm seeing, but I couldn't even speak because I talked to other people, like friends of mine, about it, and they're like, why didn't you tell it to get the hell out? Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you yell? I'm like, it just didn't occur to me. And I mean, also, I was just, I didn't want to, I didn't want to antagonize it, I guess, if that makes any sense. Cause this is a thing that was in my room and watching us for some unknown period of time, and then all of a sudden I just become aware of her. I have no idea like how long or why or what the heck. Like it just seems so casual, like, oh, this is time to go into this guy's room and then we'll move on from there. It's like, what? I so I didn't want to piss it off. So I didn't
Well,
say anything.
well, at any point though, did you even, once you figured out it wasn't your girlfriend, did you think for even a second that it could actually be a real person? Or did you immediately like, this is not a real live person standing there?
It just because of the fact that it had like this glow from inside, but the weird part, I mean, it wasn't like it lit up the room or anything, like it didn't emanate light. It just was bright. It was, so it clashed with reality. Like if it was a person, I would have they would have been in the dark, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't have been able to identify them and the amount of detail that I did, because I could see a lot of detail in this woman. Like I could see what she was wearing, I could see the kind of hairdo that she had. I could tell that she was, even though like just from like features, I could tell she was most likely Caucasian. I mean, it was very, very detailed, and I shouldn't be able to see that in pitch blackness, which is what it was. I mean, it was straight up black in that room.
So what time period did she appear to be from?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because she was wearing what looked to me to be almost like a waitress outfit from a diner, but whether it was actually from like an earlier time period, I mean, if anything, like I don't know, could have been like 50s, 60s, 70s, or even today, because people wear that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
still.
What's now when you first told me about this, the
Mhm.
thing that really the craziest thing that stands out to me is the fact that, well, number one, that she, like, you could see her holding a cup, like she
Right.
is casually like, so when you're described, you just kind of encapsulate it perfectly. Like she was just like on like walking through a tour
Yeah.
of different things, like sipping on her cup, going, okay, like so this is the couple asleep, and the next one, like different, like
Yeah.
she was on the tour of different
Hmm.
scenes of what she was getting to see, and just casually drinking out of her cup. I mean, that's detail that I've never ever heard.
Yeah.
Okay, because you usually you don't hear about a spirit or something doing something that we would do,
Right.
stand there,
Sure. Yeah.
and and I know I ask you this, but I'm going to ask it too. So it seemed like she was aware that you
Oh,
guys were aware of, or that you were aware of her.
she seemed like she was aware that I was aware of her. Yeah, because it was it kind of just like showed on her face. Like at first, she was very casual. She like I could tell that it seemed like I kind of caught her, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And and then without really even showing that she cared so much, just other than like acknowledging that I'm now staring at her and she's not, and like I think she's finally getting at that, like I'm not going back to sleep. So it was no longer entertaining. Like that seemed to be the thing, because she didn't seem to care that I was looking. It was just like, well, whatever I was trying to get out of this, I'm not going to get anymore. So I'm just going to go.
So how many times, so as you've thought about this, how many times do you think this same woman has been standing beside your bed and you didn't know?
That's the thing, is I have no idea. Because okay, so I talked to you about this afterward, or prior to this conversation, is that I didn't say anything to my girlfriend until daylight. Like I didn't want to, I was very adamant. I'm like, I don't want to call this thing back up. Like I'm not interested in having that experience again. And or something worse. I don't know. And so I waited until daylight, and then as daylight arrived, I don't even know if I slept. I mean, I tried to close my eyes, but it was just anyway. So daylight comes, and I I'm looking at where it had walked towards, and there's literally, I mean, it's a full length mirror standing up in our room. It just walked directly to that mirror. So that was also very creepy. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means anything, but it was very strange that it walked right at that full length mirror when it disappeared.
Well,
But
and I mentioned this to you, is that there is a school of thought that thinks that So I obviously it's well, supposedly it's been scientifically proven that there's different dimensions and layers of reality, okay, so to speak,
Sure.
okay? And and there are people who believe that mirrors are portals that can enable passage through those realities. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I remember this.
Yes. And the time, which, between 2 and 3 is supposedly when the veil is always the thinnest. Okay. Which then the judge and I, when we've had these discussions, the judge who I started the show with, is like, well, how do you know? Like, if it's 2 to 3 in Michigan, what time? Like are the is everybody
Right.
on the are the ghosts or the spirit worlds on the same time?
And does daylight savings time
Yeah.
take
So
into account?
so that always got us. But but the whole witching hour thing is a way older than anything that has to do with, daylight savings time and any of that stuff.
Sure.
When you told me it went through a mirror, I'm like, holy smokes, there's going to be a bunch of people that hear this, and then that's going to be their conclusion, is
Mhm.
that this spirit passed through that mirror, came into your reality, the reality that we live in, and maybe just from wherever they or she came from, that's how they come back and forth during that hour, and it allows them to interact with us however they want to interact with us. And who's to say though that when we're sleeping, that that part of us, that subconscious, that soul, whatever we possess, doesn't do the same thing to other places. Like I mean, we've all had super vivid dreams that you would wake up and say, I know I did this. I know I talked to this person. Or you wake up and you're like, I got to check and make sure so and so's okay.
Mhm.
Something happened to them. So is that just our imagination in our head, or are we going, is our subconscious like slipping out of our bodies and going out and having, doing something for 5, 6 hours, or even that 1 hour, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've thought about a lot of that stuff because I've heard other people, the way that they describe dreams, it's something that's happening essentially all the time, but we only have access to that part of our consciousness or subconscious, what have you, when we're actually asleep. So it's constantly going on. It's just that we just only kind of like break into it, you know. So we get to view it when we're sleeping, kind of thing, if that makes sense. That I've heard that before, and that kind of I kind of like that because that means that it's almost it's a continuous process. You know, basically there's this other part that we have access to that we can only really see or view when we've changed our level of consciousness in
Mm.
order to do so, you know. And I think maybe that's how, like, in certain like this, like spirit journeys, like people taking psychedelics, all of those
Hmm.
types of things to in order to access things that we generally only have access to in our sleep.
So what you're saying is that they're accessing them while they're not while they're awake, and
Sure. Right.
experience through that. Yeah. And it may also, people that are creative, music, visual media, artists, painting and stuff, like they also may have a way to tap into that creative part that's going on all the time. Because I mean, I've been parts of stuff where you get done, you're like, where did that come from?
It's
Like,
true. Yeah.
like it's, and you're just like, okay, it came from somewhere, and you can't describe, how you took a blank piece of paper, filled it with words, and turned it into a song or turned
Right.
it into some. It doesn't, and not everybody can do it, and not everybody can do it. I mean, everybody can do it. It's just not on the same level.
Sure. And
It's,
it kind of calls into question like where do thoughts come from? Oh, your head. Well, that's not a very nuanced, way of looking at it. Like what does that mean? It came from your head. Like people have ideas all the time that they have no idea how they thought them. But where do they come from? What is consciousness? Like what does all that mean? It's it's kind of wild to think about. It's like, oh, I just had an idea. Like, okay, what does that mean? Like you just had an idea.
and
I
now,
don't know.
and now with this, okay, so that's a very analytical kind of approach to like what this is. But that being said, because quite frankly, when Tim sent me a message to get a hold of you, he's like, "Hey, this is Charles is no nonsense guy. He's not one to believe in that this is just going to be a ghost." Okay, so but I want you to hear this story. So, and obviously you have done your own research and thought about this. But that being said, you experienced this. This was not you taking
Yeah,
magical mushrooms and
yeah,
and
yeah.
so how how does that how does that then make you think about other things that may have happened prior that you thought maybe you had a rational, quote unquote, rational explanation for?
Right. Well, I mean, I have thought about some things that have happened to me in the past. I I have had, like sleep paralysis,
Hmm.
where you think that you wake up and you're in your own environment, but you can't move, and you're seeing things happening in your environment that you can't do anything about. I've had stuff like that happen, and then I've also had other instances where I've straight up woken up and I'm seeing shadows moving, like shadows turning, basically like shadows that take on a a person like form, if that makes sense. Like it I dismissed it as my eyes playing tricks on me, like I'm just waking up and all of these things. And there's documented cases of this happening. This is a known thing in the psychiatric community, and so I just kind of dismissed it as that. But at the same time, the more that I think about it, it's like, well, okay, so there's documented cases of this happening, but they don't really explain why that happens or what that means. It doesn't make it not real. It just means that the psychiatric community accepts that this happens, but there's no real explanation other than they put a name to it that doesn't really, you know.
And so you were saying there's documented cases amongst mental, mental health patients that,
No.
oh,
Not no. It's not considered like a psychiatric disorder. It's literally just a phenomenon that they've
so they,
identified.
okay, so that you're, but they're basically saying that it's your mind creating
Yes,
this.
right. But
Okay.
they don't really have an explanation beyond that. Like it's a very simplistic explanation. It's just like, oh well, it's just this happened, but there's no like, oh well, because these chemicals were doing this when there's nothing like that. It's just like, oh, this
So
is just a thing that happens that we
well,
have a name for.
it makes it makes me wonder then why would your brain want to create something that would scare you to death as you were waking up from sleeping?
Right. Yeah. And how does that serve you even like in an evolutionary standpoint? Like what is that doing for you? I mean, because I doubt that we would actually evolve in order to terrify ourselves if that.
Yeah, I mean, you
That's
can't even talk sense into people when they're awake and tell them not to do stuff that's stupid.
Right.
Well,
Sure.
well, how are you gonna convince how are you gonna scare yourself straight into not doing something, as you wake up
Yeah.
and so from your experience, then you have to look at that, I would assume, in kind of a different aspect of, okay, were these people waking up and seeing their own version of the lady drinking out of the cup who didn't want to be around when they woke up and
Yeah.
was dissolving and getting away.
Yeah. The strange part, I mean, those experiences were all, I was able to explain them away. I was able to dismiss them just because as time went on, okay, so I would have this, I would wake up and then there'd be shadows moving, and most of the time they were like, they were, it's not like I couldn't see details. It was
Hmm.
darkness, it was shadow, and they were moving, and that's what I could tell. And they were generally, from my perspective, they were moving either towards me or just like menacing at me. And so I would just sit up and stare at it and just like wait for it to go away. That's literally what I would do. I just wait for it to go away. And that, I mean, it's very disturbing, but after several times of it happening, and I just kind of got used to that, and I just was able to dismiss it without a second thought. And but this time, I mean, this time I saw so much detail. Like the fact that I could pick out the woman's clothes, her hairdo, it was tied back in a bun. I mean, sipping on a drink, like all of that stuff, it was way too much for me to just dismiss this outright. And now, just as you said, it kind of makes me wonder if there was more to those other things on those previous experiences, because I don't know. I mean, and it was interesting. I was at breakfast with a buddy who's also a nurse, and he was asking me because I mean, I'm more than willing to try and get other people's perspectives on this. And there was one of my coworkers. He's a very no nonsense guy, even more so than myself. And he was like, "Well, what did her legs look like? Did you see her whole body?" And I'm like, no, because her legs were behind the bed. And that's an interesting detail. That means that like that wasn't that wasn't just my mind. Like, because it was just all black. And yet still I could see the delineation between like where her legs stopped and continued to the floor, because that was a void. So in this blackness where I saw this woman who was white, I saw I couldn't see her legs because they were behind the bed. Like, why would my mind have done that? If everything is black and this was a hallucination, why didn't I see her entire body? Because I couldn't tell where the bed ended just based on like me opening my eyes and looking around. It was just all black. So it was that right there just kind of that was weird.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Wouldn't I mean if you're dreaming about it, I mean you dream about like maybe her floating and and being
Right.
less human like if you were dreaming um this being as a ghost,
Mm-hmm.
um gosh, that's super interesting. Um hmm. And it just makes me wonder then, um because you said these things, before you said these instances have not all happened in the same place, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And is there a time frame like when you started seeing things that you thought were just, you could explain away? I mean, we're
Like in my life, like a time period
like a
when,
time like when did that stuff start happening? Were you younger or is this
uh,
um
yeah, kind of. always, I guess. There's a lot of periods of time that I don't remember because I was too young. But even my parents used to told me that I used to sleepwalk. Like I would apparently I would sleepwalk to the point where I was like getting up and like getting ready to go outside and stuff, and my parents would have to tell me no, like it's the middle of the night. You need to be in bed, and then I would just go back to bed. Like crazy stuff like that, and I would have night terrors, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't I mean, I remember I had a lot of uh recurrent dreams, like tons of recurrent dreams, a lot of them to deal with my grandfather soon after he died. That was very crazy. I would have the same dream about my grandfather like a lot. I mean, for probably a few years. It was weird. And I was always the same age. Like I was always a little kid talking to my grandpa in like this it was a stairwell at the apartment complex that I lived at growing up when I was really little. And I mean, it didn't matter what I never grew up in that dream. I was always the same age, and my grandpa was always like it was so strange. And the craziest part is I can't remember anything that he was trying to tell me. Like, like not a single thing that he was trying to say.
So he just gave up maybe after so many
I
years.
I would guess. I would guess.
I mean, it almost, and this is just, nonsense that comes across uh, my head while you're telling me this, but it's almost like there is a part of you that has a active life or an active existence in some other kind of dimension or space when you're asleep.
Right. Yeah.
Like like it's like there's something really, really happening, and or somebody's just following you around and
Yeah.
has been trying to get your attention for something. I mean, I have no explanation as to, and I think we all have some of the similar things that like reoccurring dreams
Mhm.
and about certain things, and you can't you're having the same dream, but you can't just quite put your finger on what's happening.
Right.
um, and I mean everybody's probably done some sleepwalking or something at some
Sure.
point, but to have it kind of as intense as what it seems to be with you, and then culminating in this lady, it's almost like you are living in like another existence outside of your waking self. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a, so did you so the entities or the stuff that you would see that appears as black shadows, those obviously felt a little menacing, it sounds
Oh
like.
yeah, for certain. Yeah. Yeah. They all seems to uh there was definitely aggression. There was definitely aggression like on their side.
But you did not, but like this lady, so you didn't get that feeling from her.
No, no, I didn't get the feeling of aggression, but it was just more the intrusion that bothered me so much because she was just there, just you know casually watching us like we're a television show, and and for some unknown period of time, like I said, I don't know how long she's been standing there before I woke up, and why. Like what would be so entertaining about two people sleeping? Like what is the point of that? Is there more going on there? Like, and if so, what? Like, why did I wake up? Like, did I wake up because there was some nefarious intent that I interrupted because I did wake up at that particular moment? Because I don't have an answer. I have no idea, but there was no reason for me to wake up. Like I nothing crazy was going on. There were no noises in the room. There was nothing that woke me up, and it was pitch black. So I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't know what happened there.
So what did your girlfriend have to say then when she described to her what was happening? Had she ever experienced anything, or did she like what was her
Um,
level of belief or disbelief?
no, she totally was like, yeah, I'm sure that happened. She's like, I believe you that 100%. She because so I don't want to go too far into her life, but because that's her business, and um, I didn't ask her if it was okay to talk about. Honestly, I should.
She'll never listen. She'll never let.
I could text her. Let me text her real quick because hold on, is it okay? Okay,
Oh, folks,
but
folks,
regardless,
right there, folks. Another behind the curtain. I mean, this is if the producer of the show was any good, he would have already established that there was.
oh, she's driving. She's on her way home now. Um,
So in other words,
she was 100% yes, absolutely. This is what
okay,
you saw, what you saw, and she has had
okay,
experiences, and it's I mean, her experiences are a little bit more real world affecting than mine
okay,
were.
okay.
So that she was like, yep, I'm sure. And she just said she was glad she didn't wake up. She was glad she didn't actually open her eyes and see it. That was her take.
So okay, but that explains it then that she has experienced stuff that then she has no question that if you say you saw it because she's experienced stuff that most people, it would be similar, similar
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, real world affecting, like not just like a visual kind of thing, like real world, like influence people's lives, like in positive and very negative ways. Like,
Holy smokes, this might have
yeah,
to be a part two. We might
yeah.
have
If
to
I mean, I don't. She's
have.
not going to text me back during this podcast, probably because she's driving home right now. But yeah, if I could
Oh,
get permission, I'm telling you, it's wild.
oh, that's okay. All right. So other than like the shadow figures and stuff, or the shadow beings or whatever that you experienced, and was there any other kind of stuff over the years as you grew up that happened that may have, may shine some light, so to speak, on
I
maybe what's happening?
Well, I've had experiences that I definitely couldn't explain. Like I've had a couple moments in my life that I I didn't think that like I couldn't find any reason for me to still be alive had that thing not happened. So I guess technically I've had a real world affecting experience, but I don't know. I mean I actually kind of chalk that up to like God intervening to keep me topside, basically. There was a time when I was driving too fast on I-94, and it was the middle of the winter, and I mean this was probably close to 20 years ago now, and I saw an animal run out onto the freeway in my periphery. I saw it run out, and I slowed down dramatically. And then after I slow down, I'm like waiting for this animal to cross in front of me, and it never comes. And I just keep looking around, and there's nothing there. There's no animal, and yet I saw it. And right after right after the spot that I saw this animal like crossing, I had hit a patch of black ice, and I mean, and even at the slower speed, I mean, significantly slower speed, I slid sideways just after I hit that ice. Had it not been for me slowing down, I would have hit the median without a doubt. I mean, for certain would have hit the median. And as fast as I was going, I have no idea what the result of that would be, but it definitely would have been some serious damage to the vehicle.
Holy moly. Yeah, what else can you say? I mean, what else can you
Yeah.
say is that that's kind of like a divine intervention type of thing of I got to get his attention. How do I get his attention? And
Right. Yeah. I don't know what that is. I mean, I can't discount it because it changed the course of like what my decision making based on that. And this was it was a similar thing where, and I don't know why I never pieced it together or put it or equated the two, but like in those moments when I wake up and see those shadows, it that's what it was. It was like a shadow of of what I assumed to be a deer that was jumping out into the freeway. And that was how I perceived it. I'm like, oh shit, there's a deer jumping out and I better slow down. And I I never really equated it, but I wasn't, obviously I wasn't just waking up, I've
yeah,
been on the freeway for some period of time and this was there and I have no explanation for it.
wow. Wow. So now I know I asked you and I can't remember what you said, which is terrible, but I'm getting old. Um, but I know you work in the hospital environment.
Mm-hmm.
Is there been anything unusual that you've experienced while at the hospital that you can kind of talk about, or is there any
Well,
hospitals that you've worked at that there's been some stuff that goes on that has no
well,
explanation?
yeah, yeah, for sure. So my first medical career job was at a psych hospital.
Okay.
So before I was for my first year as a nurse, I worked at a psych hospital, and prior to that, actually, I worked there 4 years as a tech. So I have a lot of experience in psych, and there, and I mean, I've worked in a couple, two or three different psych hospitals, and uh, the yeah, there've definitely been some strange experiences. I mean, you see, it's not very often. First of all, it's not very often in out in the real world that you actually see people with auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations, that kind of thing. That in itself is pretty eerie. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there. I mean, it there's a lot of reasons to want to understand that more, but but apart from that, there there have been some things that have happened. Like there were successful suicide attempts in one particular one of the hospitals that I worked at, and I mean tragic, but the there there was some perception on several patients, like they were able to perceive that something awful had happened in that room, and there were, I mean, multiple, and it was always that room, and there were multiple patients who refused to sleep in that room. They absolutely refused. Some of them would actually say that they saw someone, like, and they just would not go in that room. We had to change patients' rooms fairly frequently because of that room, and it was a known thing that that room had bad juju. Like it was.
Now, well, so okay, so when I ask you, so it was a room where multiple people had committed suicide,
No, well,
or
this was
or
just the one that I knew of.
just one per. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, just
all
the
right.
one that I knew of.
So there again, it makes you question then that. Okay, so now seeing this being or this ghost or whatever we want to label it,
Right.
and do you wonder then if those people, if something was open, if they were open to their dream state, so to
Yeah,
speak,
I've
all the
kind
time?
of, yeah, I've posited that a very similar idea, basically, because uh, what do we know about what is it that our minds are capable of? Like, where does our consciousness exist? Like, there's, there's a lot of philosophy out there that suggests that, you know, we are not our bodies. Our bodies are just the window through which our consciousness is able to interact with the world. So I think that makes probably the most amount of sense, because it means that our consciousness exists somewhere outside of this. And
Mhm.
I mean that kind of makes sense in a lot of things, like religions, all
Mhm.
of these things. It makes a lot of sense that this is this is not who we are. This is just how we interact with this world. And
I was gonna say because my body's failing me every day, every day. If this, gosh, I hope I hope the next time around I get better knees. I just gotta be honest. I hope I get better knees. But
I
I
mean,
but I understand what you,
whatever comes, yeah.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying because it makes you obviously, I don't want to ruffle feathers, but obviously religion in many cases most definitely came after us, okay? As a way to explain our existence, why we are here and what's going to happen to after us. Uh,
Sure. I'll agree. Yeah, for sure. Religion, like codified religious practice, definitely I would
yeah,
agree. Because we had to come up with a way to explain the world, and what it all means and what our place is in it and how to effectively operate here. So I get that. Yeah.
and at what point though in human history did we realize, hey, this is just a temporary thing, and once this consciousness, once this soul, leaves, we're going to come back and do it all over again, and do it all over again, and do it all over again. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
or
know.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know about. I mean, me personally, I'm not sure that I necessarily believe in the whole reincarnation thing. I mean, that's to every individual's
yeah,
decisions.
yep,
But
yep.
I feel like um, something. I mean, because who's to say that religion didn't come into practice? Because that we're actually, we're getting revelations of truth through our journey of discovering what our consciousness is. So whatever that means. I mean, we're allowed to, take a glimpse into what reality is, where our consciousness exists, and how we can better access that place, or whatever people might call heaven or what have you, like the place where our consciousness originates, spirits, souls, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know. I don't know that I would necessarily. I mean, maybe we come back to some corporeal existence where we are on this world. There's a lot of theories out there. I don't have an explanation. I don't have an answer. But it seems like it would make sense that we would continue our journey in some fashion or another. Like maybe because you mentioned how we there's these accepted ideas that there's multiple universes, and in that I've also heard that there's basically infinite universes and that there's infinite states of being. So what if we're just traveling from this universe, and then afterwards we move on to the next one, and there's some other like completely different state of existence. Who knows? Maybe we're all made out of rubber.
Well, I think the real question here is the lady dressed as a waitress drinking a Coke. Is that her version of heaven or eternal damnation that she has to go into your bedroom every night and watch you guys sleep?
Or she's just a tourist.
Yeah. In a supernatural theme park. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Oh boy. Well, Charles, I appreciate you coming on and sharing the story. I think like I said, I think it's one of the best, like really visual feel, just experiences that anybody has had that has come on as far as like I'm just going to call it a ghost. I don't really know what other box to
Yeah.
put it in, but I appreciate you sharing that and then sharing some of the other things that have happened and just your views on stuff. I love to hear what other people think about their experiences and what's going on in the world, because what it does is it opens up, then listeners will hear this and they have their own ideas, and it always generates, you know I hope conversation, not people like going, I'm going to tell you Charles doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
That's what I don't
I
like.
probably don't. I
Like
probably have no idea.
but the point is you know what you know through your experiences in your life, and that's your version of what you know. It doesn't mean that's the same for everybody else, and I think
Right.
that's what makes the world such a confounding and beautiful place at the same time, is that everybody's experiences are different, good and bad, and I just appreciate that you'd come on and share yours. So, and
Well, I appreciate the invite.
hey, and if your girlfriend wants to come on and unload her stories, shoot me a text.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I highly doubt it. I mean, I don't know that she'd have a problem with me talking about it, but her going into it, probably not, because I think for her that would be more like that would be kind of akin to giving access to for this world to interact with her, because it like
Oh, I see what you're saying. I
like
see.
she won't use a Ouija board, obviously, like
Oh, no,
that's
no, no,
just,
no.
yeah. So no, I don't know, because for her it might just be like, no, that's going to call down some bad stuff for me. I'm not interested in.
I totally get it. I totally get it. Well, you talk to her, and see what she says. Because
Sure, sure.
I'd certainly love to, even off there, I'd love to hear her stories. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm always wary of anybody that's a friend of Tim's, but you turned out to be pretty good. So, but but yes, I appreciate it, and hopefully everybody else enjoys this conversation.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it, so that's good enough for me.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what time.